Even when I tell people like, oh, I play basketball at lunch, they're like, oh, well, who are you playing with? Like the younger students or anything? I'm like, no, I'm playing with faculty and staff. And they were like older faculty and staff? And I'm like, yeah. They're just like, stop playing. I'm like, no, I'm like really the youngest one out there. And it's just their whole look on it is like they're shocked. Like they can't believe like you're 26 and you're the youngest one out there. Who's the oldest? And I give them an age, I don't give them a name. And they're just like, no. And I'm just like, yeah. I'm like, and they're competing. Like we are out there competing. Like you see how damped my shirt is?
I'm Herb McDonald. I'm 70 years old and I work at UNM. I teach through continuing ed, I think since about 1990. And I've been playing with the Legends since they started and was playing noontime basketball for probably 10 years before that.
I'm Bruce Charon. I'm 67 years old. I've worked in the purchasing department since 1992, and I've been playing Noontime Legends since the beginning.
Tim Gutierrez. I am 30 years old. Back
Take two.
Take two, yeah. I'm Tim Gutierrez, and I am 62 years old. I've worked at UNM since, 1975. I've been playing with the Noontime Legends since the beginning, which is close to 40 years or so.
I'm Paul Ingles. I'm 62 years old, and I worked at the University of New Mexico at the University radio station, KUNM. I've been with the Noontime Legends since the latest iteration started around 2003 or 2004.
I'm Rayo McCullough. I'm 59. I work over in the biology department for Natural Heritage New Mexico. I manage the conservation information system for the state. And I've been playing with the Noontime Legends for 2-3 years.
My name is Jeremy Yang. I'm 58 years old. I am a data scientist with the Translational Informatics Division of the Health Sciences Center. I've been playing basketball with the Noontimers since 2008.
I'm Rich Wood. I'm 58 years old, and I've worked at UNM since 1996. I serve as a professor of sociology, and I've been playing with the Noontime Legends, I think, since 1996. I think my first year here.
My name is Mark Emmons. I'm 57 years old. I'm a librarian here at UNM, and I've been playing with the Noontime Legends since I first got here in 1990.
My name is Paul Guerin, and I'm 56 years old. I've worked at UNM as a researcher since about May of 1992, where I am at the Institute for Social Research. And I teach part-time as well in sociology.
I'm Donald Martinez. I am 54 years old. I'm a master electrician here at the University of Mexico, going on 30 years of service. And I've been playing with the Noontime Legends since about 2010.
I'm Joe Lovato. I'm 47 years old. I've worked at UNM since 2003. I'm in the physical plant and I work as a plumber. I've been with the Noontime Legends since the inception.
My name is Ryan Lindquist. I'm 44 years old. I've been at the University of New Mexico since 2001, and I'm currently the Director of Student Activities. I've been playing with the Noontime Legends since about 2015.
I am Rod Lansing. I am 44 years old. I worked at UNM at the Department of American Indian Student Services since 2005.
I'm Ryan Swanson. I'm 42 years old. I've worked at UNM since 2013. I'm an associate professor of history in the Honors College, and I've been playing in the Noontime Legends game since I started.
I'm Ben Begay. I'm 41 years old. I'm a facilities manager for the Student Union. Being Native American, I think it's kind of part of our DNA, honestly. The bouncing of the ball, it almost replicates kind of a drum, doom, doom, the bouncing, and it almost feels natural just to pick up a basketball and run and run and run.
I'm Jacobo Baca. I'm 38 years old. And gosh, I started playing Noontime Legends, I want to say about 2011, 2012.
They started in the backyard of my grandpa's house, dirt. You know, I grew up on the reservation in Santo Domingo, so we didn't have any concrete.
Well, I learned my stuff on my driveway. My dad We had the first plastic backboard, clear backboard in the neighborhood because he was in a company that produced plastic, so he actually homemade a backboard and put it up there. So that was fun.
My dad put a hoop in our driveway in Schenectady, New York, roughly when I was 9 or 10.
My father, Monty Lindquist, was a big athlete in high school and really enjoyed basketball. Dad would get home from work, despite however tired he was. He, my little brother, and my little sister would go out in the front yard and shoot hoops and play a little 2-on-2.
My father was a really good basketball player. He played some college ball and all. So, he put a hoop up in the backyard and taught me to shoot when I was, 8 or 9 years old when he put the hoop up.
I remember my father was a custodian. He had keys to the community school that he worked for, and he opened it with his colleagues to play basketball. I remember my older brother and I going over there, kind of just trying to hit the rim, basically. But the whole community played basketball.
I grew up in Peñasco, New Mexico, and like most northern New Mexico towns, basketball is the sport. I mean, people are basketball crazy. We had a basketball hoop in our yard. My dad would go play with us. It wasn't a once in a while thing, it was daily.
Started playing basketball 5th or 6th grade, I think mainly because my parents were trying to find something for me to do in the summer, so they sent me off to basketball camp at the University of Northern Colorado, where we were living at the time.
I grew up in Los Alamos. I was kind of a nerdy little kid until we moved to Boulder when I was in 4th grade, and I didn't have any friends, so my older brother taught me to play basketball. My mom made him as a way to help me adapt, and I've loved it ever since.
I grew up in Texas, and so we only played football. But then I moved to Indiana when I was like a junior in high school. It was play basketball or don't play anything.
I mean, I was a 30% field goal shooter in high school, and I'm still pretty much a 30% field goal shooter now. We have guys here who played a good bit in high school. We have guys here who made all state teams, and some multi-sport athletes who never even went out for hoops. And we have guys here who barely made their school teams. And we have guys who never made any team because they'll tell you they were too short, too slow, or hadn't played enough yet. But somehow all these players you've already seen and about 20 others with completely diverse playing histories come together on these courts twice a week and make a pretty respectable brand of pickup basketball.
So for me, the amazing thing about basketball, and soccer's the only other sport that's quite like this, I think, is the way it's premised on individual ability, but completely in the context of a team game where, folks got to be working together. 5 mediocre players working together can beat 5 better players not working together.
It's just a great game. So it's a lot of exercise, it's teamwork. Tim and I used to laugh because we could beat the better players because they weren't playing as a team and we could. So that was always fun.
As a basketball player, you can't hide as completely as you can, say, on the soccer field, I feel like. So on soccer, as long as you're running back and forth, nobody really notices. But 5 guys, basketball, you really can't just kind of be running back and forth out there. So I like the fact there's a little individual responsibility. There's room to impact the game, to make a shot, to, make a block, whatever.
There is that ability at times throughout the game for anyone and everyone to shine, to really show what they're worth. Swallowing up rebounds, somebody that's, blocking shots, how it affects the team matters.
What I love about basketball is the teamwork, is the communication, passing, especially passing. I mean, when the ball movement, I love when you see, when we score on 5 or 6 passes, and it's all about ball movement and unselfishness. That's great. I mean, that's one of the funnest things.
Playing without the ball is the main thing. Learning how to do that, I think it's probably the hardest part of the game, just because people think, you have to have the ball to be an important part of your the team success, but it's not.
I really like stopping other guys, defending the best player on that team, whether they're a point guard or a post, or just trying to figure out how we can prevent them from going to their strongest player.
It's hard to describe what I love so much about basketball, but I think I can say the creative possibilities. When you're bringing the ball down the court and the players are spread out and the play begins and it starts with a pass to somebody and then a bunch of possibilities open up. I like the idea of being able to draw defense and then finding out what opens up.
It becomes a little bit of a chess game, a little bit of a strategy-based game, which I enjoy using my head because sometimes my athletic ability won't allow me to compete. So being smart about how we play and working those routes usually works out well.
As you've played, a couple of up and downs on the court, you realize, he doesn't really want me to set screens for him. He just wants me to get out of the way. Or, hey, maybe I should start doubling this particular person defensively because he's hurting us more than this other person. Or, it's that kind of stuff it's kind of fun to try to figure out. And yeah, I enjoy the strategy part of the game.
There's so much going on. The emotion, the tension. How are you playing as an individual? What are you doing to better your team? How is everybody else? If you find somebody frustrated, there's a lot of emotions and energy being exerted. And when you mix that up with the passion for just competing in general, it could feel like the biggest game in the world. When it's a game and you're down by 1 or you're tied up, it feels like one of those overtime games that I've been in. Just that whole feeling of these are your band of brothers. Even though it changes every single time you guys play, it's still a new set of band of brothers. It's still a new set of people that you're learning from and that you're also teaching and that you're playing with.
All right, so here's a list. It's the names of a lot of the guys who've played. Some have been around the longest. And just say something top of mind when you see these names.
I think
Tim and Bruce and obviously Paul and Rich, right? Because those are, to me, what I kind of consider are like the pillars of the Noontime Legends, right?
And one person who isn't on here, I notice, is Stuart Nelson.
My name is Stuart Nelson, and I'm 66 years old. And I used to work in the registrar's office from 1980 until 2008.
Just after I started, he was in registration, and he'd pick up people to play basketball because you'd go register, and he didn't know anything about you. But he saw me one time, and he thought maybe I played basketball, and so I've known Stu forever.
And I've been playing noontime ball since 1980 also until a few years ago.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of film of Stu playing because he hasn't played in a number of years, but there is one where you get a sense of he is totally trying to contribute even though he's not expecting to take many shots or score. I mean, if you watch him, he's just all the time waving to his teammates saying, come take this pick, come take this pick. And I know in that one film, there's just shot after shot after shot on his team where he's cleared the defender with one of his picks.
I started learning about the game in the late 60s, and I was with a high school team from Shiprock, New Mexico. I ended up being the student manager because it was too short and not quick enough. And eventually came down here in 1969 for the state tournament. And that's when I made up my mind that I was going to go to school here. Came down to school here in fall of '71, and then eventually got to know some of the guys at the gym. And one of the individuals that I got to know a little bit better later on was Tim Gutierrez.
It basically got started with the faculty of then what was called health education, physical education, and recreation. So I started out as a coordinator in rec services. And our noontime fun was to either go jog around the North Golf Course, play in the weight room, and/or play ball. Playing ball tended to take the priority over all of those. Probably in the late 70s, early 80s, we unofficially made it official and started calling ourselves the Noontime Legends. We printed some tank top t-shirts, reversibles, and on those it had a basketball in the middle and it said Noontime Legends. We were very proud of ourselves. We thought we were all that and more. Late 80s, early 90s, students started to come in and play noontime ball. And so at the time, there was, like I said, it was an unofficial group, so we did not keep students up from competing with us. All of us were young enough at the time that we could actually keep up with them. And so, we had some very competitive games.
And they spent most of their time bickering, arguing fouls.
There was sometimes I'd leave the gym with, that was crappy today. There was way too much arguing, and it also got kind of negative and personal sometimes.
There were times when we were playing where it was rough out there, right? And there were occasionally fights and people would get banned for a little while. Even some of the staff guys were getting involved in that.
And it was very selective. Oftentimes, if you showed up, you wouldn't get picked for a game or things like that.
Some of us, I think it was some of the older people, both had a feeling we wanted a game that wasn't with as much arguing and things like that, and also a game that was a little friendlier to our older bodies. Mainly without having to cover 19-year-olds. That's what I noticed early on. Yeah, so some of us said, hey, why don't we get a game for older guys and people who want a different mood with the game.
I just ran into him. I got him keys. I'm Jim Todd. I am 59 years old. All right. Thanks. I work at UNM as a director of recreational services, which means I sponsor all the recreational activities. It also means I manage the pool and the Johnson Center. I was approached by my supervisor, Tim Gutierrez, to create a league that was tailored to the less athletic folk on campus, the older, a little bit older, less competitive. And so we got together, talked about the framework and tested it, and it seemed to work, and it was popular. So it kind of took off from there. The original concept was just to have a fun, very friendly game. And that's why I call it 3 Fs, or now that's 4 Fs. It's fun, friendship, fair play, and fitness. And that's how it started. It truly did. It was a lot of fun. People didn't argue over calls. There weren't hard fouls. There weren't a lot of intentional fouls. There were clumsy fouls because a lot of us aren't good at basketball, but we think we are and we want to be, and we play hard, which is okay.
Back then, everybody is at the same level. No one's any faster, jump any higher, so to speak. It makes the game fun for everybody there.
Each week it was nice, once a week or twice a week, to go out, try to get there early. If work was tough that day, it was nice to get away for lunch and relieve that stress.
When I first started playing for the Noontime Legends, I met another team member, and he invited me out there. And so I thought, that sounds like fun. It sounds like a group of older people, not so competitive that I couldn't keep up with. And so I was very pleasantly surprised while I was playing that everybody was accepting of my limited skills.
It was the Noontime Legends that I was able to practice and get better and improve. There were some people who would encourage me, here's the ball, take that shot. Don't just play defense. If you're not shooting, they're not going to guard you. Helping the team out so that we could advance and stay on the court and continue to play.
And that sort of goes hand in hand with kind of like what we do on the basketball court, where I said we look out for each other and we know a guy, maybe he's not the best shooter, but he can do this or he can do that. And that's what I really like about this group, is that we're really close in that respect. We look out for each other.
One of the huge benefits, I think, of doing it was that the group of people that played were so widely spread throughout the university. There was Health Science Center, there were main campus people, there were sometimes from athletics, there were people were there. The old women's basketball coach played with us for a while. And it was academic and staff. And so you built a relationship with people. If you ever did meet them in the work environment, it was in a totally different mind frame because you knew them. Can't BS each other when you play basketball every day against each other, right? And your loyalty becomes strengthened too, right?
People that work at UNM are pretty sheltered. They live in or work in their own silos. And I think this was an opportunity for people to get together of different opinions, different values, and for them to share those values with each other in a very judgment-free zone. So all races, all ethnicities, all genders can get together in one group and have a common goal, have a common cause.
So usually the first person to arrive goes to the equipment room and picks up 2 bags from there. One bag has all of the different jerseys that we're going to be wearing, and the other bag has 3 basketballs and a clipboard for people to sign up as they arrive to get assigned to different teams.
We sign in, first 10 make the first game, and usually either one of those 10 or someone who's 11 divides the teams as evenly as they can.
I'll start with who I think are the 2 best, 2 fastest guys, and I'll put them on opposite teams. I usually look at post players and try to match them up. If there's somebody that's head and clouds above, better than everybody else, I usually put the second and third best players on the opposite team to try to counterbalance that out a little bit. Usually all the matchups that I do end up within 1 or 2 points there at the end, so they tend to be pretty fair based on that individual matchup to get teams set.
We throw on jerseys so we all know what team we're on, different colors. Time limit of, I believe we're doing 12 minutes now, 12 minutes or first team to 9. All buckets are 1 point. I like the aspect of everything counting as 1 because the 3-point lines in 2 of the gyms are different, so they're different 3-pointers. I think it just makes the game more of a pass and cut game because you're better off getting a higher percentage shot inside or closer to the basket than shooting the longer shot, which is obviously worth more points, but I don't think as many people are as good at shooting the 3-pointer as they think they are.
You're right, the 3-point shot doesn't make a huge difference, but in terms of the strategy of the game, whether I'm running point or running the 2 guard, I know it plays into the distribution and the spread of the court, getting that easy shot. So even though I might be a little bit more than an efficient 3-point shooter and it doesn't make difference on the scoreboard, it makes a difference because we still get on the board.
No referees, so we call our own fouls and our own violations, which are honored undisputed 90% of the time.
So as other people show up after those first 10 check in, they'll sign up on the clipboard and the next 5 to be there. So 11 through 15 serve as that next team. The team that wins the game between the first 2 teams that are there matches up with that third team.
So every time you show up, you don't know who you'll be playing with or against because you don't know who's exactly showing up or when they'll show up.
It's not necessarily a draft or anything else. It's purely based on when you arrive to the gym.
It takes away that humiliation of standing on the sidelines and waiting for sides to get picked. I mean, God, I went through that through my junior high years, my high school years, even later as an adult trying to play. You know, you show up for a pickup game and you stand on the sidelines and you try to look like you know what you're doing and hoping that somebody who may or may not be better than you picks you for a team.
If there's only 2 people waiting, then 3 people from the losing team will get to join the next game. And the way we determine that is by free throws. So everyone gets a shot to make a free throw to get in the next game if they lost.
I have to say some of those sideline free throw contests when it's down to 2 people trying to make that last slot on a team, and it's a bit of a spectator sport in and of itself.
The third team that shows up a lot of times can be a little bit stacked. I don't know if it's people kind of waiting a little bit longer to show up to play with certain people. Every once in a while it happens like that. But third team is usually a pretty tough team to beat.
If you get Curtis, Rod, and Dan or whoever on that team, it's like, oh man.
For the first few years of the reformed Noontime Legends faculty-staff game, the talent level was, as Tim Gutierrez said earlier, evenly matched. But as word spread about the game, a parade of more talented players began to start showing up. Among them, the electrician, Daniel Sanchez. The electrician wasn't his nickname. It was his job at the university, but it could have been his nickname because he sparked things on and off the court in more ways than one. Soon, in a second wave of youth, speed, and competitiveness, came Levon Van Aert, Joe Roble, Rod Lansing, and Daniel Begay. Along with Rod Lansing, Marcus Roybal, Mark Harrell, and Curtis Vigil all came in as new top-tier talent.
I'm Curtis Vigil. I'm 35 years old. I've worked at UNM since 2007. I've been playing with Noontime Legends for about 4 years now. I grew up in a small town in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Played in high school, played baseball, football, basketball. Discovering the Noontime Legends brought back that competitive edge that I needed to fulfill in my life.
His competitiveness threw us for a loop a little bit, coupled with his incredible speed and skill and strength.
Curtis is, that's a full workout tape. That's P90X in a jar right there.
When he joined, he brought the game to a different level. We had to be basically above our A game to play with him.
Initially for Noontime Legends, it was, and I can't lie, it was all about Curtis. It was all about going in and trying to score buckets and get my cardio in. And I didn't think of it as a team game in the sense of, because I didn't know anybody. I knew a couple of players, but not really well.
I think that when the younger staff come in, they're still playing at the level they did in high school or their AAU or whatever. But I think most of them, after a while, they kind of realize that they don't need to play at that level, and they kind of adapt their game. They still play hard, but they kind of adapt their game so, they're not just abusing us old folks.
And the desire to win has kind of decreased a little bit in the sense of, hey, this is not about getting anybody hurt. You have to rein it in a little bit. So I've adjusted my game to a sense, hey, if there's a loose ball or one of the legends in position to get it and I can get it, but I don't want to hurt anybody. That's not what it's about. I've had to adjust my game.
I'm Marcos Roybal. I'm 33 years old. I've worked at UNM as an associate director since 2015, and I've been playing Noontime Legends since about 2003. Grew up playing in Espanola Valley, ended up going to high school in Poake. Was a first team All-State member, I think 2 or 3 years in a row. Got college scholarship offers and actually ended up trying to go and play at Fort Lewis College, and just kind of realized that, school was probably going to lead me a lot further than going to go play at a Division II school, and ended up making the right choice there.
Jeez, tremendous ball player. Quick, agile, very good leader too on the court.
He's a very difficult matchup. He can shoot the mid-range jump shot. He can shoot a three. He can get to the rim. Not a very big guy, but a strong guy. So he's a tough competitor as well, and he's a very confident player.
He does well with body control and strength and gets you a little bit off balance, just enough to create some space.
I think of Marcos in the same way as I think of Steph Curry or Chris Paul in the NBA, just all around a good player and just chill. You know, he's just kind of stoic. He is a cool customer, plays really well.
I'm Mark Harrell. I'm 36 years old. I've worked at UNM almost 18 years as staff and student. I work at the library. I've been playing Noontime Legends for somewhere around 5 years or so. I started playing City League as a young child, which transitioned into junior high and some high school play. I was on the team, but I didn't play a lot.
Great ball handler. When his shot's going, it's going. It's fun to play with him. He passes the ball, actually, a lot more than other people.
With the young blood coming in like that, it just, like I said, for me it's invigorating because it kind of pulls you out of your, sometimes you get complacent and just kind of go through the motions. But then you get somebody coming in with that type of game. It's like, oh, okay, I gotta ramp up my defensive game or whatever, or you know, and so you know, in that respect, you know, I think for me personally, I welcome that. I don't know about the whole group.
My name is Daniel Begay. I'm 31 years old. I work at UNM as a program manager for American Indian Student Services, and I've been there since 2012. Grew up in Santa Clara Pueblo. Basketball's always been the kind of the staple sport in most of the reservations that I've been on, lived on. Played basketball when I was a kid in elementary, through middle school, through high school. Started here at UNM in 2006. Played in the evenings at Johnson. Hopped on a couple intramural teams.
His shot is the same as a pump fake, so it's very difficult to know if he's going to pump fake you or he's really going to shoot the basketball. So you gotta stay on your feet, because if he goes up, pump fakes you, he can get to the rim as well. He's a very strong, kind of little bowling ball player where he can get into your body a little bit and finish at the rim.
Makes shots that I don't even know how he makes, and I'm just like in front of him even. I'm like, how did you do that? Especially for his size, he's not that tall.
Hi, I'm Alex Paramo. Cut. I'm talking to you, right? Not the camera. I'm 44 years old. I worked at UNM as a web developer and speechwriter. Well, you know, I'm originally from New York, so I grew up playing basketball. But I didn't play it really well. So people, we'd go to the schoolyard and everybody would play, pick sides, you know, and do all that stuff. But I wasn't any good. I'm messing up the interview over here. Yeah, so I wasn't any good, and I just was determined to learn. I was always the last one picked. So I was probably like 11 or 12 at that time. And so I had a friend who was the best player. His name was James Farmer, and he played, he was a little bit older, and he played organized ball, and he taught me, he said, you know, you got to hit the corner, a layup, hit the corner of the box, and just the basics.
Alex is a super clever player. He's got a lot of skills. He's good around and under the basket, left-handed, right-handed, pretty good ball handler.
I'm Jonathan Hartshorn. I'm 43 years old. I've worked at UNM as of 2010. I've been playing with the Noontime Legends since about 2016. I played in grade school in Euclid, Ohio. Approximately after my sophomore year, I just stopped playing because of an injury. After not playing for 20 years, I started playing again with the Noontime Legends.
He's moving everywhere, he's setting pigs, he's trying to get open.
I do like to jump.
Sometimes he gets so high, he doesn't even know he's right there, and he kind of whoa. So it's kind of funny to watch.
Just unbelievable hops. Turnaround jump shot like nobody else, and dribbles with his head down. And I'm always yelling at him about that, but he's a heck of an athlete.
Some have been for the league getting younger and quicker and faster. I think that's fine. We don't want to discriminate or eliminate staff based on age. I don't think that's appropriate and absolutely not allowed. And there have been some that they just don't get along with certain individuals, and they felt it was in their best interest just to go find something else to do.
I think it got too competitive for me over the years, maybe because of my age, maybe because dealing with younger, faster folks, just trying to keep up with skills that I didn't have. Again, if somebody could dribble right past me or easily score on me, and I couldn't steal the ball, I couldn't show my defensive skills. To me, I just felt I wasn't contributing as much as I could or would. So a combination of things, people's attitudes, certain people being negative.
And I saw it went in a direction that was going to alienate, push away some of the folks that the league was originally intended to serve.
I can remember sometimes when we would get off track and there'd be usually a case of a couple of personalities out on the court that were more skilled, and there would be, excessive fouling going on and competitiveness, and then, maybe some shouting matches.
So the first time I peered out there to see what you guys were doing, lo and behold, two of the players were going at it. They're fighting with them. Well, I didn't name some names. It was Joe Lovato and Daniel Sanchez, and they were just toe-to-toe, just knocking each other around. And I thought to myself, do I want to play with these guys? They look, pretty violent. They're fighting on the court. Well, is that what I expect to see if I go out and play with the Noontime Legends and so forth? But after all was said and done, they shook hands. The two guys who were fighting shook hands, and that said a lot to me about the demeanor of the players. Things may get heated up, but in the end, we're all there, shaking each other's hands and apologizing.
I'm sure occasionally there have been some folks who've showed up, tried to play a few times, and thought that they would never be able to play well enough to continue to play. I can remember a couple of guys who just seemed a little bit out of place. And I remember also a lot of kindness, though, from particularly guys like Rod and some of the others to try to find a place for those people. There is a stream of inclusivity and a stream of exclusivity, I think, among the guys that regularly play.
When I first came in, I see like Joe and Rod and Daniel. I was like, well, there's a lot of there's some great players on this league. And I said to myself, I don't think I can keep up with these guys. It's funny and it's fun watching people trying to adapt their game, and you can see the progression of people. Like Bonnie, for example, he showed up and, who's this guy playing? He's awful. And then in his own kind of way, he's grown into everybody's hearts because he's really figured out that he can shoot, whether it's orthodox or not. He can make some baskets, and everybody cheers for him, even on the other team or the sidelines. So we may see where we want to go from there, but I don't want to have a rule for everything. I want it just to happen. And I want everybody to be adults and make smart decisions and figure it out and do what's best for the league, not what is best for them in the moment so they get the next game.
Sometimes we know things about each other's lives and kind of go up and down with each other and things like that and give support. But there's a way of relating when you play with guys regularly over this many years that even though you may not know them that much off the court personally, on one level you know them really well. You know where they're going to be and what they're going to be doing on the court, and that's a different way of knowing people, which in its own way is deep.
Tim is like an Energizer bunny. I don't know how he doesn't ever tire out, but he doesn't tire out.
Tim bugged the hell out of me when I first started playing. And I couldn't understand why he always yelled out. He walked when anybody made a decent shot.
Yeah, he's always trying to cause the trouble out there, right? He'll yell out the wrong score on purpose.
Continues to dive for loose balls and hit the ground. Passes as well as anybody on the basketball court.
Kind of an offensive force with his jump shots from 10, 15 feet, with his looping, underhanded shots that always go in.
He's got that little under thing that has gotten me so many times. It pisses me off so much when he does it.
I'll tell you where it comes from. He pulls it out of his ass.
very strong. You know, he'll post you down and he'll keep you there.
He's very effective down there because he can take like one step and lean back and toss that shot up high. With a pretty high percentage, it'll go in.
And he does a great job of getting it, of muscling his way into the basket and getting the 2 points.
We match up because probably we're both at the same level of conditioning, maybe, which is to say, very conditioned.
Just a week ago, he had a game where he had 3 or 4 baskets, and I always make sure I tell him, look, this is why you come out, so keep coming out because there are days like this. And he laughs, he said, yeah, I'll try.
How you feeling?
Good.
Good.
He's a very mobile guy. His game reflects Patrick Ewing. He's kind of got that jump shot. He's got that nice reverse layup. You know, he's got that down pat.
Love playing against that dude because that dude's class. Plays a good game. He's quick too, his first step. I have to give him space because he's too quick. Now that I give him space, he shoots over me.
And a lot of times, you know, he could take over the game if he wants to, but I think his joy is in involving everybody else.
He's known to be a great shooter, and just to watch the relaxation in his wrist as he releases the ball, that's just a beautiful thing.
I've kind of concluded that ability to shoot does not diminish with age. The ability to get a shot off diminishes with age because that requires quickness and things like that. Yeah.
I don't understand why people don't guard him without the ball and keep him from getting the ball and dropping off on him to help out on other players. He just keeps making those shots.
3 times I have bought my last basketball shoes. I said, when these shoes wear out, I don't think I'll be playing anymore. I'm kind of surprised that I keep feeling well enough to keep playing.
He is a competitor. If you get him fired up, he can go. And at times it's funny, and then other times it's just like, oh man, like I don't want to be on the receiving end of that.
He expects a different level of game than I think a lot of people are willing to play out there, which I can appreciate. He wants the game to be running plays, doing sets, attacking mismatches, and I think he has a tendency to get frustrated if that stuff isn't happening.
If he wants to make a basket, even though I know it's coming, I can't stop him.
And once he hits the first shot, God forbid, I'm going to try to block him out because if he gets the second one, he's going to make it. So someone's got to get that rebound after he shoots if he misses.
He's got some weird, wild shots, that little underhand shot. He'll look and he'll do this. I'm like, dude, you've been hitting those shots forever.
Paul gets a little beastly, so to speak, sometimes, but you know, after the game, he's always cool about it. You know, different strokes, different folks. If we were all boring and went out there and just played and there were no little scuffles here or there, arguments, it might get a little boring, so we got to keep it interesting. Thanks for that, Paul Guerin.
There's 2 distinct sides of Joe Lovato. There's the devilish Joe, and then there's the sweet and funny Joe.
He's a thinking man's basketball player. He knows the game. He's a coach. That helps.
Joe Lovato, to me, has such a good basketball brain. I try to listen to him, and he's just about always right.
He knows how to guard a point guard and knows how to guard me in the lane, but also how to pass the ball from everywhere else.
The passes that sometimes he makes, it's just like, what made you feel like that was a safe pass and it actually was a successful one?
He's that guy that you can count on, along with him and Bruce and Paul, that probably set the most solid screens for me. He's one of my favorite guys to play with in the gym.
You know, he's out there literally just having fun. He's laughing, he's joking around.
I also think he's one of those upright, moral people that I would trust my life with. And I only know that about Joe because of what I see on a basketball court. Remarkable guy.
There's days when he's just on, and it's kind of almost like a godsend type of thing. It seems like he's a little possessed sometimes.
I love his little jump hook. It's really smooth. That's very hard to defend. It's such a quick release, and it's way up high.
He's quick. He's got that first step. If you're not watching for it, it'll get you. And it's gotten me.
He's another guy that's a technician. Expect him to make some shots that you're not gonna think that should be made at all.
I don't get the sense that he's looking for a shot. I get the sense that he's looking for who's cutting to the basket, and I can make that great pass for a layup, an easy layup kind of thing.
Rod is probably one of the most reliable players that we have, both offense, defense. He never runs out of energy either.
He scores when he needs to, but he tries to get the ball to the other guys on the court, knowing that, you know, it's a team game and that we're all out there for the same reason, to hopefully score a couple buckets and, you know, get our points in, so to speak, too.
But when it comes to guarding him, I want to say there's 3 people that I hate guarding, and Rod's always one of them. Me and Rod, we definitely had some battles.
He's a good player overall. Another one who's quick. Oh my gosh.
He will just run you to death. So unless you're not getting a workout today, do not guard Jeremy.
He's wiry and he's sharp. You know, it's like he's got no body fat on him. If I am bringing the ball down, I can count on seeing Jeremy come from either the left or the right and filling up that lane and finish off a break with Jeremy making a layup.
I think Mark and I probably have the most similar games of anybody on the court. Post players by default. We both work on getting up and down the floor, draw some hard defensive assignments, and work on the boards.
He's got that weird shot where like he kind of sticks out his butt. He's going towards the goal, and I'm thinking I can block him. I always think I'm gonna get it, and I never get it.
He's pretty sneaky. He just kind of hangs out in the outer parts, and when he drives in, he gets past you, coming in and taking up those layups.
I think there are times when he'll lay back a little bit, and then there are times where he, you know, sees the opening and then moves to it.
And when he drives, he drives. He doesn't look up. He just goes to the basket. But he's fun to play with. He's a real good guy.
I think I'm a very traditional post player. I'm probably a little short to be a pure center, but my body size, I'm a banger down low and use my body to try to get in and get position, whether it's for a rebound or shooting.
I wish he would shoot more. I feel like he would make that 15-footer when people give it to him.
Yeah, I think the real reason I play in the Legends League is for the money and the fame.
There are usually twice as many barriers that older adults find to stay out of physical activity. But what I've seen in the Noontime League basketball players is they've overcome so many of those barriers. The location is close, the location is familiar, the cost is low. It's a closed, safe, secure space. So they know, all right, it's just staff and faculty, and I'm familiar with the gym. These are all environmental factors that play a huge success in this team.
You know, I work 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. I go home, I got 2 awesome kids, and that's a handful. But my wife knows usually on Tuesdays, Thursdays, don't ask me to go to lunch. She knows what I'm doing. She respects it because that's not only my physical activity, but that's my chance just to unwind, to de-stress.
So maybe off the court, I'm a father and in charge of managing a group or facility, but when I'm on the court, I'm that teenage boy again. And we're all getting together, we're gonna laugh and play and build our skills, and maybe I'll have a moment of glory. That is so meditatively relaxing.
There is something special when you can get on the court with someone that you maybe know well or maybe don't, but you put together a play, you share the ball, you cooperate. It's almost like it's choreographed, but of course it's not. It's spontaneous and improvisational, and yet there's a certain kind of harmony and cooperation, you know, at its best, which really feels right and fun.
I like playing with players where you don't know how they're going to play and like how you'll play together, and then we somehow click and like in ways that I didn't anticipate. And then if you win, that's even more fun. And then you're like, oh, this crazy experiment worked. Let's see how it works again with this other team. And it's even more satisfying if it works again. You're like, what the hell? Like, that's great.
I don't know if you want to call it flow state or whatever. It's a really special feeling, I think. Makes you want to do it again. Yeah.
When I started Noontime Legends, I was only 30, and so there's a quite diverse age range in Noontime Legends, and there's guys as old as 70, I believe, with Herb, is that correct? So guys as old as 70, but everyone still has a youthful spirit, so I didn't actually find an age gap at all.
I think just the biggest thing that I've developed out of this is relationships, off the court. You see a lot of the faculty and staff that play with us walking around campus, and you develop those relationships. And it goes a long way. It makes you feel really good that you can talk to these guys off the court.
Outside of my department and where I teach, everybody I know on campus is connected to this group. Really, it's the only way that I've made friendships and acquaintances around campus. So to me, that's a huge plus.
And it was nice to see them in a different role. And I honestly think you learn more about a person from the basketball court than you do from general life at the university and working relationships. It's a little bit more of their true character comes out.
There's times when, me and another player, we've wanted to rip each other's throats out. Sometimes see a little bit of pushing and shoving, some a little bit more than aggressive defensive plays. But I'll see any one of those guys outside of the gym, and we're the most cordial people to each other. That's what I can enjoy, because there's not any grudges that are held. I think there's like that unspoken understanding that leave it on the court.
Everyone seems to know how they fit into the team, what their strengths are, and complement each other so that everyone has a great time.
I did feel that everybody was rooting, whether they're on the sidelines. There were some people that would be watching the game and give you a ovation or whatever if something good happened, or even on the team, and it could be even coming from opposite team members. I don't know. I felt like I was getting more compliments than what I deserved.
I think the compliments help contribute to the confidence, the performance, kind of even that competitive edge as well. So you have a player that's not by any means LeBron James or Michael Jordan, but they make that one cool play. It's always fun to shout it out, because that could help them boost the game and make them do something that they've normally not done before.
Everybody needs that encouragement, and encouragement, you can give at any time. It doesn't have to be a sport, it could be on the job.
This is a group that appreciates humor, good-hearted humor. We banter and kid each other a lot.
Hello, Jacobo. It's your ball. How you doing? Yes, you're about to push me over and make a layup.
Probably not.
Come on, you're using all your energy before the game's even started. All right.
Dead weight.
I just like joking and talking, but it's just fun. We start knowing who each other's families are, It's one of the few places I've seen on campus where you can interact with people from the whole campus. I mean, health, science, you name it.
I think I draw particular inspiration, might be too strong a word, but encouragement from older players, because I want to keep playing. I want to stay healthy. It's getting harder as I hit my 40s. And so when I see some of the guys who are playing in, their 60s, to me, that's awesome. And I'd like to be in that place in 20 years.
Some days I can't really believe that I'm in the middle of all this energy that's going on out on that court. And I've thought about it a lot. Maybe I think about it too much or more than some of the other folks have. But it's definitely a palpable thing for me by now, after all these years. So I can't get enough of it. He is either continuing to work on his shot, or he's gone to the crossroads and made a deal with the devil that in these later years in his life he's going to be a good, effective outside shooter, because those shots go in.
Donald, I like playing with him because I'd say I get matched up with him a lot. I don't know if it's because we're two brown dudes or what. About the same size, about the same shape. I like playing with him. He's a real good dude off the court, too. Just a friendly guy.
Donald, the guy can shoot from the outside, always in a good mood, always glad to play, and great teammate.
To be honest, it is the guys. It's the people I play with. I look forward to seeing them. I couldn't ask for a better group of guys.
Good overall player, been playing with Easy for a long time, knew him in college. Good outside mid-range shooter.
You know, he can make his open shots and things like that, but Easy is, I think, the ultimate team player.
My gosh, has he improved. He is such a better basketball player. And I think part of that is probably his son, playing basketball with his son.
He had one game just a few weeks ago. I think he had 5 or 6 of our baskets. That can be easy sometimes. And not only outside shots, but he'll drive and get it up there too and surprise you.
What I'm getting at here with most of it is that it's a good mix, and Easy, I think, provides that, hey guys, this is just a game.
I have a very funky shot. I took a class here at UNM as an undergrad, and we had an instructor who was just amazed at my shot. He thought it was the ugliest thing he'd ever seen.
I call it a catapult shot because it isn't a classic form.
I shoot with both hands. I put my right hand under, and I'm left-handed, and I push up and I kind of push over with my left hand and pull down with my right, and it creates a forward rotation. So I know one thing is I'm hard to rebound. That ball bounces off that rim and it goes flying in a lot of different directions.
He's all hustle, man. He'll always go get you boards. You know, he'll hustle for that loose ball. You know, he'll go in and defend. Anything you need, he's gonna do, you know.
I can shoot outside if needed. I like shooting outside.
He has an outside shot that's kind of sweet. You tend to give it to him, but he's one of those guys that can get it going, and if you give him too many chances to shoot from the outside, he'll burn you a few times.
I got a good hook. I can do right and left within a certain area. I'd say I have some pretty damn good defense. My hands are quicker than people realize.
I like to guard him because he's about my caliber, slow, per se.
I think I bring a positive attitude, a good mentality, an appreciation of sportsmanship. Yeah.
I'm taller than Joe is. He jumps higher than I do, but he also has the quickest jump out there.
He's very thoughtful about boxing out. If you box him out, he'll say, good box out.
The thing that most annoys me, and I say this with respect about Joe, is that he gets his hand on the ball all the time when he's guarding you. I know it in my head. I can't pass around him, but he still gets his hand on the ball. He's a great defender.
I do watch people's eyes a lot. When you're playing a rec league, people tend to telegraph their passes because they don't play with these people all the time. I consider myself a fairly good passer. I love a good assist way more than scoring a basket. If I threw a great pass and it faked everybody out, I am happy.
He moves well without the ball. He's got a lot of tools. He can drive to the lane. He can pull up and bank a shot in. He likes to share the ball.
Seems like he could take over a game. You know, I think he holds back sometimes trying to involve other people, but yeah, he can out-jump me. I mean, he's really quick, athletic, can shoot from pretty much anywhere, good driver. It's a good thing to have him on your team if you want to win the game.
I hustle down both ends. I think I cut to the basket a little bit better than most, and I get those easy shots that no one expects.
Ben is sneaky. You gotta keep your eyes on Ben. He's sneaking behind you. He's always looking to get free and go to the basket.
And he'll make it from the outside. You know, you think he's going in, and he shoots it. You'll shoot.
A very smart player too. I know we do have a film clip of him starting a play at the top of the key and kind of giving a look fake to one person under the basket, and then Jonathan, who had set a pick, rolled off the pick, and Ben tosses him a perfect alley-oop. That's just a testament to Ben being able to see the court and understand, what's happening.
Incredible how effective he can be. Seeing him enjoy the game and be good at it is a great pleasure.
He shoots the most unexpected shots, I think, and they go in. I would say he's got a really high percentage
He's kind of the opposite of me. I have to be convinced to shoot. Bona doesn't. He's more than happy to take a shot.
Bonnie, sweet guy too, always good-humored, always laughing off almost anything that's happening on the court.
If he's not playing, he's laying on the court.
He'll fall over, get knocked over, be flat on his back a couple times because he hustles after loose balls and stuff like that. We've all gathered around Bonnie as he's laying on the floor looking up at the lights. Then he'll laugh and say, yeah, I think my back's better now since I fell.
Two different times I got injured. I cracked my sternum, and then another time I cracked ribs.
And of course, being knocked down and getting these huge bruises and cuts on my hands and fingers.
I know the few times I've almost gotten injured, and the time I have gotten injured, I can pinpoint for me what it was is I was trying to play like a young person. Like I went on the court and tried to do things that my body wasn't prepared to do.
My name is Terry Kern. I'm a physical therapist here in Albuquerque, and I've been in practice for about 37 years.
Since '71, there's various injuries that have occurred to my knees, to my shoulders, to my ankles.
My knees, to be truthful, especially my right knee, I know it's in bad shape.
Toward the ACL, MCL on this knee.
Most of the people that I see, they have lost a lot of flexibility. Flexibility of the hamstrings that really impact the knees, the groin muscles as well, and the lower leg muscles. And those really can impact the function of the knee, especially in an activity like basketball.
Unfortunately, I've sprained my ankle and twisted my knee up, in the past 6 months, and you have to limp at work for the next 6 weeks.
I've sprained each of my ankles at least 3 times and my left knee twice over the course of the years of playing, but right now it's my 2 feet that are hurting me the most.
My left Achilles has been stressed or strained lately, and so I've been having to focus more on stretching when I show up.
There are things that you can do to manage your knee pain and still continue with your lifestyle that you have chosen without having to resort to the surgery to solve your knee pain problem.
So going in and getting a knee replacement was one, scary in the sense of just doing it. 2, the fact that I wasn't going to be able to do half the things that I used to do. But I again very fortunate from the standpoint of at the end of the day it was the right thing to do, and it's allowed me to continue to play ball, be a little bit more mobile, and with a lot less pain.
The injuries tend to linger longer. The recovery time is slower. My body aches more often.
The protein genesis is so important after exercise and the breakdown of the muscle, and the body needs that protein to regenerate. So it's very important that we get enough protein in our diets to allow the body to heal thyself after playing, a relatively rigorous and tough game. The other thing that I really stress, especially down here, is hydration. You've got to hydrate. We live in the desert, and if you don't hydrate, you're putting yourself at higher risk of injury. The body needs that water. I think you can over-exercise too much because exercise breaks the body down, and you have to give it time to recover. I always tell people motion is lotion. And I think that is true even after you've really pushed yourself to the degree that you did in playing a game. Doing lighter activities the following day and maybe the day after is very good medicine for the body to regenerate and to come back, be ready to go for the next game. I think that all of those things that you now have on are beneficial. A brace is not going to replace what the muscles, the connective tissue are designed to do to support and mobilize the joints. However, by wearing a brace, I think it gives you a sense of position of where your knee is. It kind of prevents you from going to the extremes of movement when you're playing. It kind of gives you feedback of where that joint is. So I think it does help.
I have thrown out my back a number of times, which is really a tough thing.
You have to be prepared, and better prepared than probably when you were younger. So you have to work on your flexibility, work on your strength, work on your endurance. You probably have to do more specific activities that are geared more for basketball. Doing things like side-to-side movements, running backwards a little bit, doing some jumping, to reproduce the rebounding and what your body is going through. Biggest clue I can give people to try to prevent from injuries is know your limits, and that's very hard for some people to do, especially when you're pushing your body like you are in a game like basketball. You need to know your body. If you're having a heart incident, I think chest discomfort is the big thing. I think another thing that we sometimes overlook is dizziness. Shortness of breath can be a telltale sign, as well as pain into the upper extremities.
I noticed if someone was a little winded and face was red, hands on their knees, another person within seconds was right there to pat them on the back and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And they just give each other a little nonverbal communication to say, "I'm good." That feels really good to know if you did hurt yourself, someone is watching out for you.
The last thing that we want to do as we get older, and it's easier to fall into that rut, is to become sedentary. And to be out there and moving is what we should be doing as we get older.
No matter how much I ache and hurt, when the game's over and I'm done showering, I feel great.
Probably I only have one pet peeve, and that's some folks will occasionally, or maybe more than occasionally, call fouls all the time to bail themselves out.
When people are whining over little calls, when people are complaining, when people are, when there's too much, blabber.
Or people that call fouls but will never call fouls on themselves. That drives me crazy. I'm like, call it both ways,
The intentional foul thing, it sort of gets tired, because you can give it your all and then foul someone and you're not trying to foul them, you're going for the ball or whatever. Well, that's one thing, but when you're just grabbing someone's arm and just to stop them because they're the superior player or they got past you, I feel like that, we just need to keep our eye on it because it can get a little out of hand.
The other thing is when people aren't actually concerned about other people's health, when people play too physical.
If you say something about that, they'll usually back off, or some kind of compromise can be made. You switch off and play somebody else,
Have respect. Be polite. I'm not saying be a pushover. Just be polite and respectful. Be courteous.
A lot of people in our group are either super competitive or have a need to be right. When the combination of the two get together, the argument doesn't stop.
I know we'll see other guys who start to argue with each other. Sometimes, there's a little bit of shoving. It's kind of like, hey, come on, let's keep playing. You're wasting time. We got 12 minutes. You're wasting one of my minutes. Let's go.
I know an item that probably drives other people crazy about myself, and I try and be a realist. I definitely get way too into it at times, where I'm just I'm yelling, even the little things like, so when I talk about defense being important, if I'm hustling my butt on playing defense, and then the guy next to me just Olay defense, that layup, I'll definitely say something to my own player. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
You know, I've been playing this game for 50 years, wanting to do well. Believe me, there's enough self-loathing and self-criticizing that goes on when I make a bad play, miss a layup, don't get up on defense. I really don't need anybody else to call it to my attention.
And I know I'm getting too excited because always afterwards I'm going to everybody, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, it was on the court.
Another thing I don't like is when people coach me on the court. No matter what you do, you're not doing it right. You could score 4 points, but they tell you to stop shooting. Or you're not guarding right, you're not picking right or picking and rolling right.
When somebody starts yelling at their teammates, I just, I either laugh at it like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you're taking that this seriously. You're tearing into this guy for a noontime pickup game.
There's a handful of guys who are just really, who I think the competition outweighs the consistently outweighs the friendliness and the, and the getting along and the humor and the lightness and things like that.
For the players that are taking it very seriously, I think that's where, it has to stop sometimes and somebody has to pull them to the side, or a group has to pull them to the side and say, hey, that's not cool and that's not right. So you can continue playing and act right and, do what we're all doing, or you can see yourself through the door. Go right ahead. But when you're here from 12 to 1:15 or 11:45 to 1:15, this is how you're going to respect it. This is our set of rules. This is how we're going to play. And this is how you're going to be an example for whoever else is coming.
I tell my kids that, when I was growing up, we had neighborhood games all the time, and they were never refereed or an adult was involved. It was amongst us kids. And there were times during those games that we got into disagreements. And we had to come to a compromise, or the game would end. And we don't have that anymore in our society. And I think it really shows in how there's a lack of compromise in our society. Games teach you that, how to get along and how to compromise.
Conflict isn't a negative thing. Conflict dealt with constructively and consciously, mindfully, is part of what makes us more creative as human beings. And conflicts that are allowed either to flare up and blow up or to just pass because people retreat from them are actually missed opportunities for creativity. If we can deal with it constructively, if we can enter into the conversation, it's a way to not just suppress the conflict, but use it for something more creative.
And anytime I do get fed up with anybody's action or attitude on the court, I can't stay mad at them very long. That's how it feels like family, So that before the session ends, or maybe at the beginning of the next session, I'm going to be putting my arm around their shoulder and making amends somehow, or giving them the opportunity to make amends, which they almost always do. So when you show up 2 or 3 days a week and you're going to see these same guys, it's pretty stunning when all of a sudden you realize you're not going to see one of them again.
Hector Torres had been an English professor at UNM for more than 20 years. Stefania Gray was a grad student in literature and cultural studies. Today, students and faculty dealt with the shock of those murders after police in UNM officially named the victims.
Hector had been dating Stefania for some time. Stefania's ex-boyfriend had already shown up at Hector's home once, threatening violence with a knife. That time, Hector talked him down, and a restraining order was issued. But the ex returned weeks later anyway, with a gun, and shot both Hector and Stefania dead. The man later pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 25 years in prison.
And I saw this email, I think it was an email, somehow I found out. And I remember trying to call JT and to just confirm. I was in disbelief. I was trying to call back here, and so somebody could tell me it wasn't him.
Torres specialized in Chicano studies. Another love was basketball. He played with friends at the Johnson Center every Tuesday and Thursday for 20 years. He's seen wearing red shorts in this home video.
This is part 3 for Stu.
Well, I think that the two people that no, I just saw Hector and Daniel's name out there. I always, when I first started playing with Hector, there were certain things that he did that I always knew that he was going to do all the time. So I picked on him. So if one time he got mad at me for that. Said, "Why are you always picking on me?" I said, "Hector, you're always doing the same thing every time, so you need to change that up."
Hector, he probably never played ball until he got here. He was an individual who I can remember when he was first out there and telling him, "Hey, you got to do this, you got to do that." When Coach Bullis all get out, Hector, it's exactly what you told him, he would do it. And he also had his famous hook shot. And so every now and then when somebody does a hook shot, they'll yell Hector.
How does it sound when we yell it?
Hector!
And one of my favorite times of that, or that I would appreciate the most, is when he'd actually hit the hook shot. He'd get so happy, and I felt like I hit it, because I was telling him where to go and didn't pass it, and I really root for him.
And I just remember Hector just had the weirdest shot because he used to shoot really low to his chest, and he would run around all the time, but he could make that shot low to his chest, and I just always really remembered him for that.
He was a player I really knew by defending him and covering him, and I knew what he was going to do. And also Hector had a great heart. He wasn't going to argue and stuff like that. He was out there to have a good time.
But I was talking to Hector a lot during that time, and I was aware of his strife that was going on, and so I was shocked by it, but it didn't come out of the total blue because I knew that there was stuff happening in his personal life that was really tough. But of course, who would ever thought of that?
The way I remember Hector Torres was as one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet on a basketball court or anywhere else. Fun, kind of a quiet sense of humor, joking. And Hector was a guy of peace. The stories are of him trying to talk the guy out of doing what he was about to do. But he died doing what he really believed in, which was being a guy of peace.
I ran out and got black wristbands, I think that same day, for us to wear for a few weeks. I still have mine, and put it on once in a while and think of Hector and Daniel.
A year ago, Jacob Williams was drunk behind the wheel south of Belen. He crossed the center line and plowed into a motorcycle carrying Daniel Sanchez and his daughter Megan. She was badly hurt. He was killed.
My 2-year-old and 3-year-old will have very, very few memories of their father, and that's sad.
I remember Daniel Sanchez as one of the really fine shooters on a basketball court, but also the guy always easy with a joke, easy with a smile at somebody else's joke. I can picture Daniel with just that grin on his face, whether it was after an incredible long basketball shot or after somebody giving him a hard time joking with him.
Either the best or second best shooter of all time that ever played in the Legends. He never played defense. We used to yell at him, play defense, but he didn't have to because he could outshoot whoever he was guarding. And you had to respect the guy, and he was a nice guy. Really nice guy.
Daniel was one of the best three-point shooters that I've known over the years. When I was fresh, I would be able to hang with him, play defense on him. I knew what his movements are, force him to pass it. I think that's the two things that I miss about these two guys.
It's hard to lose them though, wasn't it?
It was difficult. It was difficult.
You know, I applaud you, Paul, and the others that after Daniel's accident and his passing, how that you guys have included and invited his wife and his daughter to come down, because she was such a big basketball fan.
They had just lost their husband and father a few weeks before, as I recall. What gets them to show up to a basketball game at a time like that? I can only think that they, in their love for Daniel, knew what this game meant to him, that it was somehow important to who he was, the kind of husband and father he was, the thing that made him a really good husband and father. And so they, in mourning his death, wanted to come and sort of bear witness, watch that basketball game again.
And since losing Daniel and Hector, it's really changed how I feel about this group, because frankly, when I do see them every week, I kind of want to put my arms around them and give them the biggest hug possible. And I do that some, and I think it makes some of the folks a little uncomfortable. But that's how much this group means to me, these individual guys. And if, or maybe I should say when, we lose another one, it's just going to cut to the heart and make me appreciate everybody else, and any time we get to spend with each other, all the more.
What you could see in the faces of the players who spoke about that loss was that realization of the fragility of the moment, the understanding of how important the community was and is, and that idea of, if I can stay here and now, and when I get onto that court and I'm within 4 feet of the people who I know, there are health benefits to the psychology and the brain to be emotionally close to other people.
To some degree, yeah. To some degree, it is like church. It revives you. It motivates you. It also hopefully teaches all of us to be a better person at different times, or to understand one another. So yeah, I would say yeah, it is like church in many ways.
I do think that basketball is one of those kind of workshops for life, because it's complex, because it involves other people, because you have to make choices in the moment, not just about basketball, but how are you going to relate to this guy who just fouled you, or the guy who's in your face because of something you did.
You have to deal with people, and everyone's different. And so when you're on the court, you have all these different personalities. You're all there to exercise, but you're also there to achieve a goal.
The legends have really aged well, and I saw them playing, recently, and the guys are out there still running up and down. I appreciate that, and appreciate the sense of just maintaining their physical fitness that this opportunity provides.
All of us were getting older and realizing the days ahead are probably fewer than the days behind, and so each day becomes special, and each opportunity to play basketball with a good group is really special.
I can't become younger, but this is as young as I'm going to be, and what I can do is enjoy and live as fully in this moment with my resources, with the people who are around me as possible.
I do think about when I'm not going to be able to play anymore. I think I saw a news report of some guy that was playing pickup ball at 86 or something. And as long as Herb is around, he's always going to be about 8 years ahead of me. So as long as he continues to play, I've got at least an 8-year expectation that I'll be able to play at least as long as Herb, if I'm lucky. But whenever that time comes, or whenever that injury happens, or whenever the wheels just won't go anymore, I know I'm still going to show up, watch from the sidelines, maybe coach a little bit, whether they want it or not, shoot around on the off basket, and just be sort of close to the action somehow.
I don't want to over-glorify basketball in talking about it. Right? This is your and my and some other folks' venue for working some of this stuff out and for taking out our competitive juices. There's nothing, unique that only basketball can do this. Other sports, other ways, book groups do this for other people. Faith communities do it for other people. It's where people come together and treat each other with some kind of respect and in a spirit of dialogue. Those are all places this happens. Basketball is just one of the better ones. Lots of places to call home, and to make peace.
Yeah. It's just been such a great gift. It's a little weird, maybe, to care so much, to want to document it, or to just be thinking about it as much as I do. But who can explain those things, right? It's like trying to explain why music is great or what love is. You just know it when you feel it, and you know why it's important, and you know why you're there on some level. So you just keep showing up and sharing the love. It's about love, ultimately. That's what Noontime Legends means to me. I mean, you might as well call it noontime love.
Start at 7 straight up, and you keep going. Just play.
So let me get this straight. You want me to come to an auxiliary gym in New Mexico to call a pickup game between a bunch of old guys?
Well, it's not exactly a pickup game. We're semi-organized. We wear mesh jerseys.
Oh, mesh jerseys, well.
We watched the 10-player profile, so Paul, talk about how they will be matched up right here.
All right, Steve, so I think the backcourts are the most interesting here. You got youth and speed in Mark Harrell and Daniel Begay. The gold shirts have the experience, though. Alex Paramo, Rod Lansing.
Inside, there's Lindquist trying it out, and he'll score.
He's actually fouled here. Would have been an and one if we were shooting free throws in this league.
Black's back in action, trying to close this out. He'll take the shot. Is it a game winner?